Hello and welcome to this introductory webinar providing an introduction to the UK Diploma in Financial Crime Prevention from the International Compliance Association. My name is Becca Dare. I am a Director of International Compliance Training. So in terms of today, what we're going to do is give you a flavour of the content of the course, the syllabus, as well as talking about the journey you'll go on during the program in terms of the workshops, the assessment process, and maybe just a few pointers on the approach to study. Okay, so the Diploma in Financial Crime Prevention itself is typically offered on a face-to-face basis, which would be 4 one-day workshops. And we'll talk about the workshops shortly, but they're delivered by experienced practitioners and subject matter experts who are very good at bringing the subject to life and very engaging as well. There are 2 written assignments during the program and a 3-hour, 15 minutes open book examination at the end of the program. The course will take around 9 months to complete as well. So the syllabus itself is broken up into 4 modules, which in turn is split down into 14 units. So the first module is really about providing the context in terms of what do we mean by financial crime. So what are the key legal definitions of concepts such as bribery and corruption, fraud, money laundering, terrorism, insider dealing, and electronic crime. We will also look at some of the latest theories on what motivates fraudsters. What's the psychological and behavioural profiles of fraudsters? What's the latest thoughts on the structure and approach of organised crime? And what are the techniques and vulnerabilities in respect of corrupt politicians and insider dealers? We'll also look at the bigger picture in terms of the international frameworks. Who are the key international bodies and agencies who help to shape the legal framework around topics related to financial crime? So we'll explore the role of the United Nations, the Financial Action Task Force, the European Union, amongst others. But also we'll look at how we can use the information and tools provided by these organisations in our own roles and organisations. We'll then dive down into the actual legal and regulatory framework within the UK itself. So who is responsible for what? Who are the key government departments, government agencies, law enforcement bodies, regulators, industry bodies, and how do they interact with each other? What are the key laws and regulations that affect financial crime? And what is the practical application of these laws within organisations and on the ground? We'll look at the UK's money laundering and counter-terrorist financing strategy, as well as then focusing on insider dealing and market abuse, looking at the civil and criminal regimes within the UK as well. We'll devote a whole unit to exploring the concepts of bribery and corruption in terms of the legal frameworks, as well as what constitutes effective systems and controls to mitigate the risk and the latest emerging best practice around topics such as counterparty due diligence. We then go on to look at corporate and business frauds. So these are frauds that may affect any commercial organisation, regardless of whether it is a regulated firm or not. So here, for example, we examine topics such as payroll fraud, invoicing fraud, and procurement fraud. We also explore some of the big corporate frauds of the past 15, 20 years, where we focus on very, very senior management fraud linked to accounting scandals. And we also examine case studies which will illustrate some of the key systems and controls required to mitigate the risks. We look at financial sector fraud as well, in terms of both internal fraud risk and external fraud risk. What are the main risks and vulnerabilities in terms of financial sector fraud? So we examine banking frauds, credit card frauds, deposit type frauds, insurance fraud, frauds linked to securities and investments, mortgages, money payment transfer frauds, and explore some of the key controls in those areas. We then go on to explore electronic crime and some of the latest thoughts on the vulnerabilities and risks related to cybersecurity. And linked to that is a unit focusing on the importance of data security, focusing on good practice and bad practices to be avoided. The final module focuses on investigation, prosecution and recovery. So this is civil recovery and asset tracing, the criminal regime under the Proceeds of Crime Act, as well as the civil recovery and cash forfeiture regimes. We also explore the concept of dealing with a significant internal event in terms of perhaps investigating a significant internal fraud or a significant fraud attack. We talk about setting up a fraud response plan, how to conduct suspect and witness interviews, and issues such as the collection of evidence and the preparation of a lessons learned report, as well as dealing with all the relevant parties and stakeholders. So the workshops themselves are extremely engaging and a great opportunity to network and benchmark with a range of practitioners from both the public and private sector. There will be a mix of group exercises, practical case studies, discussion and debate. And the courses are run in reasonably small groups and are highly interactive and engaging. The assignments themselves, there are 2 of them, as I've said, typically a 12-week period to complete them, between 2,500 and 3,500 words. And again, we're conscious that many people may not have studied at this level for a long period of time, and we offer plenty of support and advice in terms of how to write the assignment and the approaches to things like research and referencing. Again, we give you advice on planning and support. We also offer a mentor service, which is available, whereby we can partner you with an experienced industry practitioner who will act as a sounding board and support for you during your studies. So to give you a flavour of the sort of depth and topics covered in the assignments, we have here an assignment from last year. And you can see the question puts you in the shoes of a financial crime prevention consultant. And you've been asked by a senior management team's trade association to produce a report headed Managing the Business Risk of Fraud. You've been asked to produce a document in a board report format. And again, this is something we'll give you advice and guidance on how to make your report look like a board report. The report is asked, you are asked to cover the following topics: the legal and regulatory requirements for fraud prevention, the fraud prevention systems and controls within a firm, the importance of a fraud-averse culture, and how the effectiveness of fraud prevention can be measured. So again, they've asked for real examples to support this paper. So we'll give you advice and support in researching and preparing an answer to this type of question throughout your studies. The exam itself is, as we've said, 3 hours, 15 minutes. It's open book, so you can literally take any printed material in with you. So it's very important that you produce your own study notes, answer frameworks. You can take your course materials in with you, but because it's open book, you're best to go in armed with your own study notes as well to ensure you quickly get the key points you want to make down on that page. And again, we spend time preparing you for the examination and ensuring you have the right skills and materials for the day when it arrives. A couple of examples from the examinations last year. The first question is from a case study style question, puts you in the position of being head of the financial crime prevention team for a UK firm in a sector of your choice. And you have had notice through a whistleblowing advice line that some discrepancies have been identified in payments made to salespeople, including someone who is one of the top sales managers. Basically, you are asked to review the recommended actions you would need to take in order to carry out an investigation in the short, medium and long term. And you're asked to advise the steps the firm should consider to avoid a repetition of the scenario in question. And again, this is a topic that we explore in depth in the workshops and the course material. The second question is more of a factual theory style question. You have a quote talking about serious organised crime from the Serious Organised Crime Agency. And again, the question is, identify and assess the roles of two partners or organisations that SOCA could collaborate with as part of an international investigation, using case studies to support your answer. So again, we will provide you with support and advice in terms of research and information to answer a question of that type. This is focusing more on the international frameworks around financial crime prevention. Again, the workshops and study guide will provide you with a framework for planning your studies, and the advice is obviously to do it in a structured way to try and maintain your work-life balance. The course has been designed to be achievable while you're in full-time employment, but it will require a commitment. I'm often asked, what is the time commitment involved? And I would say typically you're talking about 5 to sort of 7 hours a week in peaks and troughs through the duration of the program. And of course, this will vary depending on the level of experience you have and your commitment. Again, note-taking is important. Producing your own notes, highlighting the key cases you wish to refer to, and you will refer to the relevant law, legislation, as well as industry guidance, and indeed information within your own organisation is appropriate as well. The assessment during the program is overall a 50% pass mark is required. 50% of the program rests on the 2 assignments, and 50% of the program rests on the examination at the end of the course. And the program can be awarded with a pass, merit or distinction grade. Okay, thank you very much for logging into this webinar. If you have any further questions, feel free to contact the International Compliance Association. I have the internet addresses at the bottom of the screen there. I've included my own details on Twitter and indeed my own email address as well. And I look forward to seeing many of you at future programs with the ICA. Thank you.